So James, tell me, what was the initial ambition? Like, what was the spark that got you thinking about joining the Royal Marines?
Well, I actually had the real urge when I was about 19. I joined at 24, but the real urge came around at 19. But stupidly stuck around because I was in a relationship with a girl. Chose the girl. wasted that time there. And like as we said before, with regards to the whole hereditary thing, maybe it was always in the blood to just join the military anyway. I remember my father talking about the Marines because he wanted to be a Marine himself, and he was always talking about how he wanted to be a Marine himself and how hard the Marine course was. 24, that's when I actually decided to join the Marines. And at the time I was an electrician. I was a qualified electrician. I was working for a building company, and I had a number of skills behind me then. Electrician was my first trade. I joined a bathroom and kitchen fitting company. There I picked up bathroom and kitchen fitting to a degree. I picked up minor carpentry. I picked up plasterboarding, dry lining, plastering.
Yeah.
And around the age of 24, that's when the relationship with that young lady finished. And I thought, you know what? I'm still young enough. I can still go and do this. And I was fed up with life on site. It wasn't doing anything for me at all. I just had
getting the paycheck type thing, and
mate, I was living week to week. I was living week to week. I was getting my money. I wasn't living at home. I was living with a friend of mine who was going through a divorce at the time, so he had a spare room in his house. And basically, that paycheck every week was paying lodgings in this house, and the rest of it I was just blowing on, going on a drink every weekend.
Standard like mid-20s kind of crack, isn't it? I mean, I was very similar situation when I rejoined at 23, 24, I think it was.
Just getting on it every weekend.
Just every needed weekend, a change, and
not putting any money away, nothing left to show for it by the next paycheck on Friday. Chasing that money as well with the builders I was working for. I was working for a lot of builders around the Medway area in Kent, and they had a lot of links into kind of like the Southeast London kind of underworld. I mean, they were a bunch of crooks themselves.
So do you think if you'd stuck around, you probably would have gotten amongst things you shouldn't have a little bit?
Absolutely. The crowd that I was mixing with. I mean, I learned plastering off of some nasty guys. They were in their part time. They were debt collectors for the local villains who were pretty much owning all the nightclubs around Medway, etc. Had a lot of links into Southeast London. Had a lot of links into Essex with all the Essex boys stories and that. And so getting my wage each week was hard enough anyway, because these guys are hardly
ruthless.
They're just ruthless, yeah. I remember to get my wage when I was working for the bathroom and kitchen company, I had to go to a pub to go. He made everyone come to this pub on a Friday to collect their wages, and everyone had to have a drink.
That's mental.
And in this pub, it was kicking off all the time, fights. The fights were brutal between these guys. They were really savage. And
gouging eyes out and all the rest of it.
They were guys that fought on the gypsy camps with the gypsies. They were bare knuckle fighters. They were debt collectors.
So you just wanted a bloody way out of that crap then? Did you feel as if you were better than what you were doing?
I wanted a purpose, I wanted adventure. That do you know what? The one feeling that I had the most was I wanted adventure. There was no adventure around there. I mean, and I remember the job I was on. I could actually probably take you to the house that I was working on, where one day, it was about midday, I was clipping cables to a joist, rewiring the lights in this kitchen. And I just went, do you know what, man? I've got to do something about this. And I left my tools on site. I left the tools there. I jumped in my car. I had a battered up old Escort. The pistons the pistons weren't firing properly. So whenever I stopped at the lights, I had to keep my foot on the gas, because if I took my foot off the gas, the pistons started firing out of sync. The car would stall, and then it might not start again. So every time I got to the lights, I had to quickly slip it into neutral and then keep my foot on the revs, just keeping it above 1,000, and then somehow get it back into gear to take off.
Outrageous.
I went down to Chatham Careers office, and I walked in there and I said, I want to sign up. They said, what do you want to do? I said, I'll have the hardest course you got. I'll take the Marines. A lot of people.
It wasn't a para behind the desk you're speaking to, was it?
Mate, I was about to say, that's going to ruffle a few feathers, isn't it?
100%. Yeah.
See the comments come flying in.
Yeah. The Irish Guards are going to get in the chat now, aren't they?
The Raffridge, apparently.
Yeah. The best in SFSG, apparently.
But so that was it. I signed. I said, look, I want to be a Marine. And back then, do you know, when you go on social media now, and I talk to a lot of lads who are looking to join, and I say, well, what stage are you at? What are you doing? I held this CPC.
It's all changed now, hasn't it?
PJFC. I've got an interview. I've got an app on my phone that talks me through the stages.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Ryan, this is where you sound like an old sweat. For me, it was, can you run a mile and a half? Can you run a mile and a half on a treadmill?
Yeah. Get up on that pull-up time.
I went to a local Holiday Inn at the top of on the Maidstone Chatham
Is that
Road,
where they were doing the PRMCs then?
Mate, all they wanted, there was an assessor in there who was basically going to see how fast I could run a mile and a half on a treadmill.
At the Holiday Inn, eh?
At the Holiday Inn.
And your old boss was there, wasn't he? One of the gypsy bosses was there, probably having a few beers.
Collecting some money. I nailed that 1.5 mile on a treadmill. and then after that, it was PRMC. And you went and did your PRMC, and at the PRMC, if you got through that and you still wanted to do it, you got given a set of boots and told you're going to come back in 2-3 months, make sure those boots are worn in. And was that what your process was? Pretty much that was
exactly the same process. Yeah. Even when I rejoined, went back in, exactly the same. No frills about it. Like you did an application. The application, I think, was like, it was paper then. I think, it was. You just sign this, hand it back in.
Medical.
Can you remember that you had to do a written test thing beforehand? What was it called? The psychometric test. Can you remember that?
Mate, I can't remember that. I just remember doing my interview. In my eyes, was about 1.5 miles on a treadmill at the Holiday Inn.
1.5 miles, yeah. You did that at the Holiday Inn. I did mine at a gym. I think they've been having you on there. go to the Holiday Inn gym. But pretty much the same. And then PRMC. How was your PRMC? For anyone who's not watching this, most people will know because they followed James and myself. Potential Royal Marines course is what it stands for. It's like what was it, James? A 4 or 5 day?
No, it's thrashing? 5 day. It was Monday to Friday.
It was just a thrashing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I actually remember when I got back to the station, jumped on the train from Exeter, from Lympstone, jumped on a train on the Friday, successful with my boots, with my Pusser's boots, all proud of myself. My dad picked me up from the station in Maidstone, and he said, how was it? And I showed him the back of my feet. I said, that's how it was. They were torn to shreds.
Your heel was still in the boot.
Just my socks were just bloody red.
Yeah, them boots though, we called them Puss's cheese graters. Absolutely rip your feet to shreds, don't they? They're getting Altbergs in training now.
Do you know what? I saw a clip. Did they wear safety helmets when they're doing some of the obstacles?
Yeah, all of the obstacles now. Safety helmets.
I try not to laugh, man. I try not to laugh. It's bad that I'm laughing, but I don't know.
I'll be honest with you. I think when we went through it, in fact, when you went through it, there wasn't even safety nets on the actual Tarzan.
No. Safety nets on the top. Sorry,
There's
is there safety net on the top?
There's safety nets on the. So I mean, if you fall, you're going to cream it in still, but you're not going to die as the aim, because they had a lad, bless him.
You're not going to break a femur.
Yeah, really smashed him up. You know,
Right.
he's not right now, I believe. So they put them on, but now they make you wear helmets as well, which I think that's a military-wide thing, to be honest with you. But you take away the danger element, you get idiots, don't you, doing stuff. That's what I've found. I think when you were up there without a helmet on, just don't fall. That's what we were told. Don't fall. Hey, you'll be all right.
I tell you what, when you're up there with a helmet on, without a helmet on, switch on. Make sure you're switched on.
Yeah, I mean,
not switch off.
Tarzan's cheeky, actually, but so you were working in the building trade. You had like an epiphany moment, kind of, right, I need to get cracking. Went and joined up. How long did that process take, and what was that process like before, like, you getting into the Corps?
So if I joined the Corps in June of 2006, 19th of June 2006, I actually remember my joining update and my passing out date to the exact. So 19th of June 2006. I should imagine that I went to the Army Career Centre maybe 6 months before that. So 6 months. So
about
from the point I went to the Army Career Centre to doing my PRMC, to turning up at Lympstone on a platform with Chris Tyrrell there with a camera on his shoulder, 6 months.
So that was about the same time as me. I think it's a lot longer now for lads, for obvious reasons. Capita controls the recruitment and stuff.
Well, like I said, I hear stories of like they're monitoring their progress through an app on the phone.
Yeah,
I'm not knocking it. It's just a different world, isn't it? It's just
so
a different world.
So different, and
you can track your progress on the phone. You know,
a lot of kids are getting medically rejected now as well, and they've got like parts of training added, because it's 36 weeks now, effectively, isn't it? The extra 4 weeks.
Is that because of the beginning part where you got a bedding in phase?
Got a bedding in phase, and it was literally because, you know how we talking on the last episode, we used to go out and play and do stuff. We were robust without thinking it. We were already robust. We didn't get broke off a bit of fizz. Whereas they've got loads of people going through Hunter Company and stuff now because of injuries that we just wouldn't have picked up. A lack of robustness, effectively. I know people will disagree with this, but it's true. Like, this generation, they're not as robust. Yes, they might go to the gym and train and stuff, but I'd argue we were already at that robust level without gym, and then gym on top. It just, man, you got magic, didn't you?
There's something to be said for being out in the woods, you know, making fires, making camps, having camps fall on your body, fall on you because they're not built properly, falling out of trees, being on your bike, racing around in the woods, hitting a stump in the ground, banging your chest up against the handlebars so you break your ribs, and then saying, sod it, I'm still going to go and play basketball, even though I can't raise my hands because my ribs are broken.
Having no strand all day.
Just that resilience. That resilience.
Yeah, just a generational thing, unfortunately. We're going to sound like right old farts talking like this, but what was that like then, turning up to the gates and Chris Tyrrell's there?
I thought it was...
Did you get pre-warned about this? Like,
no, not at all.
You didn't really... Wow, so did anyone get given a waiver, like, you don't have to be in this troop if you don't want to, kind of thing?
Not that I recall.
That's such a bootleg thing.
Mean, do you know what? Yeah. Put up from the start. Suck it up, Royal.
This is happening. Deal with it. Like, you're going to be on TV. Like, come on. It is outrageous, though, when you think about it, isn't it? Like, no, this is the gen. This is what's going to happen.
I remember getting off a platform, and I remember Chris Tyrrell being stood there with his big camera on his shoulder, and I noticed it. I didn't really observe it for too long. I just looked at it and thought, you know, this must be what they do.
They must just. It's for the video at the end of training that they make for you. You know, the little shitty video. Actually, did you have a video at the end of training, or was that your video?
Commander on the Frontline was a video, wasn't it?
So hang on, I got like a 20-minute shitty video someone made on like, you know what I mean? Little shitty 20-minute PowerPoint video. You got an entire documentary given to you.
I don't remember. I don't remember any Any little video of training? I don't remember that.
Oh mate, I got a video. I've still got it actually. I might put it on YouTube. Just basically showing us like doing all in our head. It looked Gucci at the time, but when you watch it back, you think that we look really shit doing that. You know, Chris Terrell
with your twigs and your bushes hanging out your helmet with your crack cream on.
Yeah, just gash. Absolute soggy lettuce.
With your BFA on.
Oh, BFA. That used to rust. Yeah, whoever designed that, ingenious. It would rust on if it rained.
Yeah, that's just to cause you a bit more admin.
So talk me about training. Let's do foundation, because I think foundation phase that's the start of training anyway.
Yep.
It's your first real. Well, I think they even called it shock of capture, maybe on the documentary.
That's what it was called, yeah.
Was it called that? Yeah. So, and it truly is the shock of capture. Talk to me about your
weeks 1 to 3, I believe. Was it weeks 1 to 3?
Definitely the first couple of weeks, at least.
Again, mate. Yeah, I tell you what, that shock of capture, perfect way of describing it. It's a lick. You're going from a civvy to those first initial stages of trying to be a swept up, admin aware soldier, or potential soldier, and but they pile on that admin. It's the admin that's the hardest part. The phys is a shock. But it is the admin side, isn't it? But the early mornings, the 5 a.m., someone coming in screaming and shouting at you, you just getting put on the flank and just beasted for having something slightly out of position, in your wardrobe. You taking the hardest thing, you taking the thrashings for someone else's mistake.
Actually, yeah, if you're not used to it, most people at that time have never done that before. You're never going to get thrashed in Civvy Street, are you, for something you haven't done?
Yeah, that's a big deal. It's hard to deal with.
There's like 60 plus people in Foundation Block as well, like 60, 70 beds in there. So everyone's messing up at some point, because no matter what, you're banging out press-ups all day. I kind of remember going through Foundation and thinking, surely they have to let up a little bit. Like, now we're really tired. Like, there's got to be like, when they've fragged you, absolutely fragged you, you've been up all night for a week at this point. Yeah. You just think, well, surely not doing 3 sessions of PT today. Well, and then it just keeps on going. It's a relentless thing,
It's and you know what makes it hard? The training team, they don't want to be there. They are fuming. They are livid. They are taking a bunch of civvies who they don't want to be anywhere near, and they are trying their best to get them to start the beginning stages of being a soldier. It's
imagine just coming back from Afghan and then ping, you're taking a troop through training.
Oh mate, and you're taking a troop through foundation.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, to be good at that, you've probably just got to be schizophrenic, right? You can't just switch roles from like smashing it up in Afghan and then taking like 16 to 24-year-olds through training and expecting people to get that perfect. I mean, teachers go to uni for 4 or 5 years and do masters and PGCEs and everything to be good at that. Like, and you go through junior command course in the Corps.
I'll tell you what, though, Ryan, it is kind of testament to the professionalism of
I agree.
of a junior commander in the Royal Marines.
I mean, I'm probably biased here. You'd be able to see a lot more on this. I think a junior commander, a junior leader in the Corps are among the finest in the British military, period. You go to some camps with some cap badges, the corporals are, not all of them, but some of them are pretty shabby, like, to say the least, I think. Yeah. That's from my experience. A good bootneck corporal, PTI, PW, he's going to be on top of his game, as on top of it as he'll ever be, probably.
Yep. Yeah. And do you know what? That shone through in Afghanistan.
Did you see that?
PWs, heavy weapons. I mean, super. Just super soldiers, switched on soldiers, admin squared away, procedures squared away.
Yeah, I agree.
They was on it.
I remember looking at my corporal in training, Corporal Hayward, and he was just hoofing. He was. I was like, I want to be like you. And I think that's a sign of a good corporal as well. Like, Do you want to be like him? I did. I wanted to be like him. What he did, how he polished his boots, how he ironed his kit, how he did this in the field, how he held his weapon system. I wanted to do that. I copied him. You know.
Yep.
What was it like with meeting your train? Can you remember meeting them in the Fulton's Hall or something, or was it in Puzzle Palace?
Do you know what? I can't remember where it was, but I was obviously under the command. If you're going to put it like that, my section commander, my DS who took me through training was Corporal Jim Glanfield. Corporal Glanfield.
What was he like?
He was fantastic. Again, you just said there, when you look at a soldier and you think, I want to be like you. I remember a field firing exercise where they were giving a demonstration, and Jim Glanfield, to look at him, he wasn't the epitome of an in-shape soldier. You could tell he liked his donuts. You could tell he liked his he liked his cakes. He liked being in the dessert queue, nothing, as we call it. I would have said duck wells.
Yeah.
But when I watched him move across that field doing fire manoeuvre, you're just
soldier.
Like, where do you get those leaps and bounds and that power and that aggression from? You know,
that's what they say. There's loads of Royal Marines, not many bootnecks.
Yeah.
So you see the bootneck coming out in him in that regard.
Like the way that he just, and as looking back on it now, as I go through my career, that became a standard. But you imagine to essentially a civvy or a half civvy, or definitely not a guy that's got his green lead and has passed the commando course. Watching that, you're like, that is what soldiering's about.
Yeah.
That aggression, that movement, that bound. You know, time to perfection. Down, he's aggressive. The way that he screamed, you know, the way that he called out a
fire control order and stuff.
Yeah. The way he did all that.
Just getting the rounds down and just thinking, right, he's smashed that. That looks brilliant.
But again, you know, I also look at it from another view. Very easy to do when you're giving a demonstration.
In real life, yeah.
Well, and also under the duress of being thrashed for weeks and weeks on end. And still keeping that morale up, that momentum.
So what do you remember being the hardest part of foundation? What was the bit that stuck out for you about the whole of that foundation phase?
The same thing that was the hardest part of training for me, full stop, which was taking the beastings for other people's mistakes.
Really?
That is the hardest bit for me.
What was hard about that? Just a mental, like, I'm pissed off with the guy, or what did it make you feel like?
Mate, you're just like, mate, get your shit together, mate. Come on.
Lads get whittled out of training from that as well, don't they? Like, the lads get around them and they end up going.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? Foundation is pretty much... that's what it is. It's a whittling out phase, isn't it? Who wants to be here? Who wants to be here? And obviously, you know, you see, you have got the scene on Command on the Frontline where it was Corporal Van Swavic teaching us how to wash our balls. I mean, you know, that's me sat there as a 24-year-old guy at the time who's thinking, mate, this is making me want to throw the towel in. Someone telling me how to wash my nuts.
Did you ever think about that during the foundation phase?
What's that? Throwing the towel in?
Yeah.
Never, not once, man. I haven't. We'll come on to it later in the shows, but I was thinking about this earlier. When have I ever? Do you know? No, I've never ever felt like throwing a towel in for anything.
Jen, just
there's been very rare times where I've let that feeling come upon me where I'm like, I might be thready in here. For the viewers, I might be failing here, but that came on in SF selection, and they're very good at doing that.
Making you feel that you're failing.
And you've heard that before, probably, Ryan. A lot of lads, they take themselves off because they're like, I've threaded this.
Well, I've got a story. I'm not going to mention his name. He got all the way through SB selection. I was in the same troop as him. He got to the jungle. He was the fittest guy I know. I know loads of people say that, but he was the fittest guy I know. He was phenomenal. Think nothing of doing 15, 20 miles a day. You know, it was just unbelievable guy. Smashed the hills as we knew he would. And he was a good soldier as well. So he did very well in the jungle phase, but they got into his head. And I can't believe he didn't know that they were doing that. He basically came back and said, I felt like I threaded it from the start. And every day they were onto me for something else. And at the end, close to the end, before they give him a decision, he says, I don't want this, I rap. Because he couldn't, he says he couldn't bear the thought of failing something. He wanted to withdraw. And we were like saying, you've obviously not seen what happened. But he understood at the time. He went, yeah, I know exactly. He says, I probably would have getting through. I was just made to feel like he was doing shit. But he was there every day, He was doing it. They don't want to see someone perfect, do they? They want to see someone do what they need to do when they need to do it. You're going to fail, aren't you, miserably in many circumstances, I'd imagine. But it's getting through that adversity, I'd imagine, is the key.
Things are going to go wrong. How do you deal with it going wrong?
Yeah. That's kind of how I look at SF. You're there when everything's went wrong.
Yeah.
And you've got to just deal. You are the guys that deal with it. There might not be a plan, right? How many times have you been involved in situations where there was no plans? You just got to deal with it. That's kind of the job, isn't it? Or am I wrong for thinking that?
We'll come on to this again down the line, but I would probably say with the SRR, there's always a plan. That is what they pride themselves on.
Really?
The planning is swept up. It is swept up. That's what you are tested on. That's what you are trained on.
Interesting.
That's your core, the planning.
Wow.
Be accounting for every single situation and scenario that could possibly come around. And how you're going to deal with it when it comes around, if it comes around. But, yeah.
Interesting.
So, end of foundation.
Foundation, yeah. You get your own grot, don't you? Or you're in a 6-man grot instead of a 70.
Yep. And instead of watching that 7-man grot whittle down, you start to watch your 6-man grot whittle down, didn't you?
I felt good. I felt good about that,
It's bad, isn't it?
How did you feel when lads got, I'm not joking, right? My best friend passed out with me. I passed training with the person I became best mates with. Very lucky in that regard. But if he didn't get through training, I would have just magged to grid that relationship in a heartbeat. Because I don't know. It was something really nice about watching people fail. I know that sounds horrible.
No, I'll tell you, it is bad.
I felt great.
But I didn't feel great about it, but I did feed off it. I'd say I fed off it.
You know what I mean? I was like, oh, man, that's one more person that you don't have to worry about. I'm here still,
Do you know what? It's the second thing you said there. That's why I think you feel good from it, because you're like,
yes,
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Yeah, it's not because he's failed. That's the wrong wording probably. But I just felt, how many people passed out with you? From foundation you start, how many did start?
So beginning of the course was 56 guys.
Okay.
And then with back troopers coming in all the way through the course, probably the best part of 100 people passed through the troop.
Yeah.
So maybe another 34 on top of that 56 passed through the troop in some way, shape or form. And then at the end, there was 7 of us on the parade square.
It's like 7%. That's great.
7% of the total attendance of
total
that,
attendance.
Percentage-wise of...
I think there was about 8 on ours.
Yeah.
And that was quite a big number, apparently.
Yeah.
Of originals, that is. Wow, so similar, so 1 of 7, man. Them's good statistics when you think about it, right? Like being there amongst like the other 6 guys you're looking at, getting your green lid.
And also Ryan, I joined maybe around 13.5 stone. So I wasn't paying much particular attention to the cardio. I was making sure I could run. I was making sure I could run a mile or 2, maybe 3 comfortably. That's all I was doing before. But I was in that stage of wanting to do a lot of weights, squatting. So I was packing on a little bit of timber for my age, for my bone structure, for my size. I was about 13.5 stone. And then when I went in there, they really began after week 3, and you start doing your gym work. You're getting beasted up until that point, but then you start doing gym work, don't you, to get you athletic. You start to learn to climb ropes. You start to, do press ups in sync with each other, sit ups in sync with each other, pull ups in sync with each other. What's that? What's the thing that do you know what? I can't remember the thing that the PTIs do. Is it
IMF, initial military fitness.
Yeah.
It's like a Swedish, you do all the jumps and... Hey, tell you what, it's good though, isn't it? People would look at that and go, that's terrible. But you do a couple of camp circuits and rope climbs and then back into that.
Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic.
They really started to kind of whittle down my weight, whittle down my structure.
It'll take it off you, yeah.
And I started to get really, really fit by around week 7 or 8. But I was putting in a lot of effort. I remember I was putting in a lot of effort on the camp circuits. Camp circuits pays to be a winner.
100%.
First 5, don't do it again. So then you're in this dilemma. You're like, right, if I go balls out and I'm in the first 5, I haven't got to do it again. I'm going to be absolutely knackered. I'm going to be bleeding out my lungs, but I don't have to do it again. However, if I roll that dice and I go balls out hoping I'm in the first 5 and I'm not in the first 5, I am now on the back foot massively because I've got to go again. I'm bleeding out my lungs. I'm hanging out. And they're going to go next 5. Don't do it. Sometimes they don't tell you the number. They just go, you.
Yeah,
and you're like, yeah, you're running there and you're like, please give me another, you. So you're in that dilemma. But I remember I used to mug that dilemma off. I used to be like, I'm going balls out on every single one. And I went balls out on every single one. And I'm not saying that I came in first, second or third.
But you just went for it anyway.
I just went for it anyway. I was rolling the dice on it every single time, regardless of the pain, regardless of how much it hurt.
Did you know you had that kind of mindset before you got into training? Did you know that about yourself? Because you find stuff out in training that you didn't know before.
Yeah.
Like, was that something that you knew? Did you know you had that in you?
No.
Really?
Limpston highlighted it. Limpston brought it out and Limpston kind of neon lighted it. Big time.
Was that a game changer for you in your mindset and mentality? Like, I've got this in me and it's working for me. Do you know what I mean? Because one thing that shone through on Commando on the front line was your personality of, I guess positivity does link with happiness. Yeah, the happiness in you shone through. I remember watching it like in 2009 or whenever it was, like 20-year-old or something, going, this guy's really cheerful. And bearing in mind at this point, I'd already done like most of Commando training. I knew the parts that you were going through. I was like, why is he happy about this shit? Like, because foundation, I remember crying myself to sleep at 16, like, and I'm looking at this guy just laughing about it, so that's a real positive trait.
That laughter, that wasn't something that I thought about doing. That wasn't something that I kind of sat there and analysed when I was at CTC and thought, what's the best way of getting through this? Do you know what? I'm just going to laugh it off. That was there before. That was just something that I did, and it worked. Like I said, I said on the last episode that we did, the footage after the mud run where Terry John, Jordan Slater, James Williams. I mean, I was stood up with my head, with my head back, my shoulders back. Yeah, you're not going to break me. But inside, I was laughing. We'd just gone through the mud run. I was thrashed. I had holes in the back of my heel, the size of like a 50p piece. And in that was, and in those holes, they were holes. They were blisters which had popped and popped and popped and pretty much popped down. And in that was that fishy, estuary, gritty mud, which you then had to somehow get out of that wound. And that's coming. You can't walk. They're telling you to run up to the hill and make sure you get hosed down. And you're like, I can barely walk.
Yeah, with the fireman's hose.
But yeah, I'm still going to have a laugh about it.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, it just shows that, I mean, you can't fake that kind of personality. Like, you'll get found out in Commando training. So if you can laugh when your feet's hanging off from the mud run, then there's, you've got it in you anyway. So I think with yourself, it's a mixture of Commando training, bringing it out early on, but also you've got to have been that way. Yeah. And we've explained in the last episode probably some of the key reasons why you were that way. I think I'm interested to to hear the next phase of commando training, because after foundation, you got all the bullshit admin stuff, and then you go into kind of basic soldiering.
Basic soldiering. What was the first? Is it Hunter's Moon?
So Hunter's Moon, which
is that
brings
the first
me
exercise?
on to.
Or was it Baptist Run? I can't remember.
You did first.
No,
there was a
Baptist Run
first step, which was on bottom field. I don't know if you did that, but
yeah.
I mean, that was it was just a party, really, getting a couple of thrashings, but on bottom field. And then for me, one of the worst exercises, and we'll talk about it in the next episode, actually, because we're 35 minutes in. Martial Star. You remember Martial Star well, I'm guessing, James.
Martial Star for me was what I remember was that was the introduction to being on the flank in the field. I mean, you can be on the flank and get your punishment fizz in camp. You had a little bit of gauze, you had some stinging nettles, you had some rocky, muddy hills to that, and that flank, that becomes a different place. And I remember Martial Star, for me, I don't know if it's a thing they do for everybody, that is where they introduce you to being on the flank in the field. And that's when you really begin to get that hard, toughened soldier resilience about you.
I agree. Hey, troops, we're going to talk about the flank in the next episode. James, thanks again, mate, for taking your time. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to this channel, guys. This podcast is not going anywhere anytime soon. Me and James have got guest appearances from loads of different people within the military lined up. But to be honest with you, we've probably got about 10, 20 episodes of you, for the next few weeks, because there's a lot to break through. Thanks again for watching, guys. James,
all good.
Thanks, buddy.
Sweet. Catch up soon.
Right, so it's stopping.